This week on Christian Worldnews, an ISIS fighter infiltrates a church in Turkey and was overwhelmed by love. Now he's warning the West about the dangers of radical Islam. Plus, the Ramadan prayer countdown, how 10 ministries all came together for 10 days to reach millions of Muslims. And every year, thousands come to see these beautiful beaches for a dream vacation. But few see the poverty and despair in the Virgin Islands. We take a look at the darker side of paradise.
여러분 안녕하십니까? 크리스천 월드뉴스입니다. 터키의 한 교회에 잠입했던 한 IS 요원이 사랑으로 변화됐다는 놀라운 소식이 전해졌습니다. 생애 처음 경험한 사랑을 통해 그의 삶이 송두리째 변한 건데요. 뿐만 아니라 그는 극단주의 이슬람의 위험성에 대해서도 경고의 목소리를 높였습니다. 오늘의 첫 번째 소식입니다.
Several years ago, Pastor Ghassan Thomas escaped Baghdad when Islamists threatened him and his family. He went to Turkey and started a church that reached out to other refugees.
I go everywhere because I was a refugee, and I can put myself in their shoes and understand them.
One day, ISIS sent a spy into Pastor Thomas's church. While this led to a life-changing decision for the spy, it also led to an opportunity for Pastor Thomas to learn more about the terror group. Thomas set up a phone call for Cbn News with this man we'll call Mohammed. For his safety, we won't disclose his true identity or location.
Welcome, my dear brother.
Were you with ISIS or Daesh?
Yes, but he's worried about that because he said that on the interview, but yes.
Thomas told us Mohammed's job within the organization. When ISIS killed a family inside their house, Mohammed would go back and kill anyone who was still alive.
At that time, that's how I thought. I thought of killing. I thought of doing many bloody things just to be close to my Allah.
He says this bloodlust motivates ISIS.
For sure, there will be more and more since it's in the Quran. If you're not a Muslim, you need to be a Muslim, or we will kill you and take everything, finances, women, and everything. This is in the Quran.
Fighting between Sunni ISIS and Shiite militias often put Mohammed's own life in danger. For his safety, family members told him to flee Iraq to Turkey. As a devout Muslim, he obeyed his parents, and the opportunity to leave came when ISIS sent him as a spy into Pastor Thomas's church. But Mohammed had his own questions about Jesus.
I saw the people how they welcomed me, and they didn't even know me. I hated those people, and they showed me love.
They prayed for Mohammed, and it changed his life.
When they prayed for me, I started to cry like a child, and I felt like something very heavy was coming out of my body. At the end of the service, I went home, and it seemed like someone was walking with me, talking to me. I felt like I wasn't on the earth. I felt like I was flying, like someone was carrying me.
Then Mohammed read the Bible and compared it to the Quran.
I went there and discovered that the God that I want is the God Jesus Christ. He is the right God.
Pastor Thomas says Mohammed's change of heart means the church in Europe needs more workers.
For this reason, we need some people come and serve God here in Europe with the refugees, just to wake them up, to be against what ISIS do.
This former ISIS member expects more attacks like Brussels and delivered a warning for Europe.
Do you think there's a great danger to Europe right now?
For sure. It's a huge thing. They should wake up.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, just outside Vienna, Austria.
이와 관련해 많은 시청자들이 질문을 던져왔는데요. CBN 예루살렘 지부의 크리스 미첼과 함께 좀 더 자세한 이야기 나눠보겠습니다.
Let's go to our first Facebook question. Emily asks, how do you know he really was an ISIS fighter?
Well, I had to trust my sources. Pastor Ghassan was one person who had been actually discipling this man, we'll call Mohammed. Others that I knew had met him as well and verified his testimony. His testimony was consistent with other Muslims who have come to faith in Jesus. Many times they go very skeptical. They go into a church hating people, and sometimes they come out just changed and transformed when they realize that they truly are loved by these people.
Chris, another person is asking the question. He claimed to be a refugee, but was he really a spy? Are there more ISIS fighters who claim to be refugees, and how do we stop them?
There are definitely many ISIS who have infiltrated this flood of refugees into Europe, sometimes into the United States as well. The way to stop them is by having a robust vetting program of coming into either Europe or the United States. Unfortunately, it looks like in Europe they've opened the borders. Right now they're trying to close some of those borders. But this is maybe one of the most dangerous things that are happening in Europe and the United States. For example, there was a counterterrorism expert who told me maybe 5,000 to 7,000 jihadists, just like this Mohammed, right now inside Europe, and that poses a great danger. He says the greatest danger since World War II to Europe.
Yeah, very, very serious threat indeed. Chris, I'm curious, have you heard reports of other refugees coming on the shores of Europe who are accepting Christ?
Yes, in fact, we found that many times. We did this particular interview with Mohammed just outside of Vienna, and we went to several services right there. And some of those people had came to faith in Jesus Christ, sometimes through a dream or a vision, sometimes by being invited to a service like we attended. And many times they're very hungry for the gospel. ISIS not only is barbaric, but it is turning off many Muslims to Islam, and they're questioning their own faith. And some of them, and hopefully many more, are turning to Jesus Christ.
And I'm sure those who are working on continental Europe are using this as an opportunity to bring more people to Christ and introduce them to the person of Jesus Christ. Chris Mitchell in Jerusalem, sir, thank you so much.
Great to be with you, George.
이슬람의 라마단 기간이 7월 5일부로 끝이 났습니다. 전 세계 수억 명의 무슬림들이 한 달 동안 금식을 하며 기도했는데요. 이 기간 기독교인들도 무슬림들이 변화되기를 위해 기도했습니다. Cbn 뉴스의 SNS 팀도 이들을 대상으로 전도 활동을 펼쳤다고 하네요.
The 10 ministries to lead viewers in prayer for the Muslim world over the last 10 days of Ramadan. Broadcast on Facebook Live, those prayers reached more than 7 million people and were viewed by over 500,000 people, surely having a great impact.
SNS를 통한 전도, 이 아이디어를 낸 주인공 아이샤 바스콤을 만나 이를 통해 일어난 놀라운 변화에 대해 이야기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다.
The ministries that worked with us, they have these amazing stories of Muslims coming to Christ. Tell us about that.
Yes, they did. I'll start with Ishik Alba. She is a phenomenal televangelist who reaches out to Muslim women around the world, actually, but primarily in the Middle East. And she talks about being a radical Muslim and actually sitting in the mosque with the imam shouting curses to Christians and Jews and saying, this is what we want to do to the great Satan, which is how they refer to America. And the congregation saying, amen, yes, because there was so much hatred, she said, when she was a radical Muslim in the mosque. And going home and her husband beating her, spitting on her, and coming to a place where she thought, is this what Islam is about? Yeah. Hatred in my home, hatred when I'm with my brothers and sisters in the faith. And eventually she got to a place where it was just too much and she wanted to commit suicide. So here she is at work in her bathroom, at the job in the bathroom, saying to her God, I'm going to commit suicide. It's too much and I can't do it anymore. She comes out of the bathroom and her Christian boss says, my God just revealed to me what you're about to do today. Wow. And there is hope. Wow. And that's how she came to Christ.
And this is reality of why we did this thing for 10 days. Talk about the prayer initiative and the impact you think that these prayers are going to have, that they've had the last 10 days and going forward.
Well, honestly, I don't think that we'll know on this side of heaven what the true impact is. But what we do know for a fact is that we reached 7 million people. And that over 500,000 of those people actively watched and engaged in prayer. 10 ministries coming together from around the globe. That's what's the beautiful thing about social media, is that these 10 ministries were able to band together from around the globe and lead believers into intercessory prayer for Muslims in the Middle East, Iran, Afghanistan, and even here in America.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Aisha, you were at the forefront Thank you so much for doing this. And obviously with technology like Facebook and other social media platforms, we have even a greater opportunity to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with folks.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Up next on Christian World News, darkness descends in Russia. President Vladimir Putin signs a law outlawing evangelism and cracking down on house churches.
러시아에서는 안타까운 소식이 들려왔습니다. 새로운 감시 체제와 테러 방지법이 마련되면서 교회 밖에서의 복음 전파가 법으로 금지된 겁니다. 이와 관련해 러시아에서 지난 40년 동안 선교 활동을 펼쳐왔던 한우 하우카 대표를 만나 현지 상황에 대해 좀 더 자세한 이야기를 들어보겠습니다.
Hannu Haukka is president of Great Commission Media Ministries based in Helsinki, Finland. He's been actively engaged in ministry to Russia for over 40 years and has daily interaction with churches there. He joins us now by Skype. Hannu, what's the reaction by churches in Russia to these new laws?
The church leaders that we have talked to, which means several of them, representing the main denominations of Russia, the Baptist Union, the Pentecostal Union, they are in confusion. They do not know what to think of this because this law has snuck up on them. Everything has been passed basically in the last 8-9 days. And the churches certainly were not prepared to see this kind of law passed with this speed, unhindered in Russian society.
I mean, Russia's constitution guarantees freedom of religion. For Christians, at the core of their faith is to share their faith with non-believers. You cannot do this. Is that my understanding? You can no longer do this in Russia outside the four walls of the church?
Yes. The essence of the law, I can state a few of their main tenets. One is that religious activity is no longer permitted in private homes in Russia. Unfortunately, most of the 7,000 plus churches in Russia meet in private homes or private buildings because they do not have access to public facilities. They are not able to rent public facilities, and they are not able to get building permits to build churches. So they have, for the last 20 years, met in homes and homes that are owned by private individuals. This is no longer permitted. The next thing, one may pray and he may read the Bible at home, but not in the presence of a non-believing person. If you do so, you are breaking the law and you will be punished. If you share your person with a person, for example, on a train ride, you will be detained by the police. As soon as that happens, as soon as they discover it, you'll be fined $1,000 for sharing your faith with that person. Of course, you will be taken into custody and off the train.
And my understanding, according to the law, is that if you're gathering together for a meal, you cannot even say a blessing. You cannot even say grace for the meal in the presence of somebody who's not a Christian.
Correct. Any discussion of God with non-believers is considered missionary activity, and this will be punishable by law.
Hannu, can you give us a sense of why this is happening? What's the reason for these restrictions?
One of the things is that the Russian government is deeply suspicious of evangelical Christians or evangelical Christianity, everything that is outside Russian Orthodoxy. And so, therefore, they are putting curbs on this. They think, most likely they think that whatever happened in the Ukraine was supported by the evangelical community, and therefore this must never be allowed to happen in Russia.
What does it mean? Obviously, we've talked about what this means for evangelical Christians in Russia. What does it mean for outside groups who work in Russia? Are they also beholden to the same laws?
Absolutely. Well, there are very few international Christian organizations in Russia at this time. I think we are one of the very few offices that are open and functioning in Moscow and in Russia at this time. However, if you are, for example, a Russian living outside of Russia, and you somehow are an advocate to, or you are assisting Christians inside Russia to share their faith, you will also be prosecuted. That is, if you come back to Russia as an expatriate, living outside Russia, you will face prosecution once you cross the border on Russian territory.
Hannu, what does this mean for your ministry and others like yourself who are working in Russia? How do you go forward?
We have been in Russia and the Soviet Union for the last 40 years, ministering to that country. And for the last 20 years, we've had an office in Moscow, 25 years actually. So we don't know what the consequences will be for us. But apparently we will be under the same laws as everybody else, so we have to prepare for whatever comes.
This is a very important story. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
Coming up, just miles from picture-perfect beaches, a scene you won't see in postcards. But God is using missionaries to bring beauty from brokenness. That story, right after this.
미국 버진 아일랜드는 아름다운 해변과 온화한 날씨, 시원한 바람까지 완벽한 휴가지로 유명한 곳인데요. 하지만 낙원처럼 보이는 이곳에는 우리가 그간 알지 못했던 어두운 이면이 있었다고 합니다. 이곳에 복음을 통한 변화를 가지고 오기 위해 노력하고 있는 한 교회의 소식, 지금부터 함께 만나보시죠.
Ads and brochures selling dream vacations want you to see paradise about 1,000 miles south of Florida. On the surface, the U.S. Virgin Islands appear postcard perfect, but dive a little deeper and you'll find a much different picture. Video of broken down public schools doesn't help fill hotels or pack beaches. The fact is, life for locals is far from paradise. More than 30% of families with young children live below the poverty line. Overall in this territory of 100,000 people or so, the poverty rate is 23% compared to 15% on the mainland. But there is hope.
The beaches here on the island of St. John are simply breathtaking. But just steps away from Hawks Nest Beach, something else breathtaking is happening. Freshwater Church is talking about Jesus, living out the gospel, and sharing an eternal message here with the locals that they so desperately need.
Each Sunday, you will find them here, right next to the beach, praising Jesus. Pastor Terry Lansdale and his wife Marta are missionaries in St. John. God called them during their very first visit to the island.
God immediately spoke in a quiet voice and just simply said, Terry, this is a place for you.
What they found was far from paradise.
Our apartment became a triage for spiritually broken people. People were desperate for answers.
Including one man fighting an addiction that Pastor Terry will never forget.
This man knocked on the door and said, Terry, if you don't have something positive that you can share with me, this is my last moment. God intervened, and so I lived life with him for the next week. Father, I thank you for each one that you've drawn here this morning.
I mean, unfortunately, brokenness, it doesn't matter if you're in paradise.
Amber Pinnigus was living in New York City 3 years ago, but God kept leading her to St. John.
There's a lot of people down here who don't really know how to deal with their brokenness. There is a lot of alcohol. There's a lot of drugs on the island.
We've seen lives saved. We've seen people that are hurt just reach out to us, and they not know us that well at all. But because God was in it and we were definitely prayed up and definitely moving forward, we're blessed by being obedient.
That obedience includes sharing the good news with poor children attending public school.
We can go down during their lunch recess, and they allow us to play with the children. They also allow us to share the gospel. They allow us to share Jesus stories with those little children.
And that's why Freshwater Church makes ministering to people and fostering community a top priority.
Get your arms around people and love people. Let them understand the value they have in God, and you will be shocked how people will begin to respond and come out.
It's been working. When the church started 3 years ago, they had sparse attendance. Now, dozens and dozens keep flowing in.
This church made a difference in my life. It turned my life around.
Katie Connell has been on the island of St. John 23 years now.
And I told God, if you let me live there, I'll dig ditches, I'll clean toilets, I don't care what I have to do. And sure enough, I got here and I did clean toilets.
Toilet cleaning turned into running 4 companies. Eventually, life got too busy and Katie started focusing on herself. Then, she learned a valuable lesson.
Religion is kind of kept in the dark here. They might go to church on Sunday, but they don't talk about it during the week. And this was a church that was teaching me, not only do you talk about it during the week, you talk about it with your employees, you run your company that way, you do everything according to God's will.
For Pastor Terry and Marta, That's what it's all about, doing God's will, even if it means being far away from their grown-up kids.
I like hugging them, and I miss it. But at the same time, God has just blessed us so much, and we'll leave a legacy for our children to carry on that is, it's all good.
It sure is, especially when you have Jesus and are spreading his word to the underprivileged. The church is indeed providing much needed fresh water.
Everybody needs a drink of fresh water, and we thought that that's what we were bringing to people was the word of Jesus. And Jesus said it himself, if you just give someone a cup of water in my name.
Every day, gonna let my little light shine.
David Brody, CBN News, on the island of St. John.
한편 웨스트버지니아주 찰스턴에는 기록적인 홍수로 많은 피해자들이 발생했는데요. 이들을 돕기 위해 CBN 오퍼레이션 블레싱 팀이 나섰습니다.
25 people died there and many homes were destroyed, but Operation Blessing delivered semi-trucks full of food and relief supplies, and volunteers helped people clean their damaged homes over the 4th of July weekend. Good work that they are doing, not just in West Virginia, but around the country and around the world.
오늘 준비한 소식은 여기까지입니다. 저는 다음 주에 다시 찾아오겠습니다. 시청해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.